Welcome to the InfoMullet YouTube channel. If you enjoy this content, please like or share. And if you'd like to support the InfoMullet by becoming a mulleteer, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate your support. Nick, that's great that you work for the federal government and you work for the Department of Treasury and they sent you home and barred us from returning to any federal buildings. So yes, those folks are taking it seriously. I work for the Department of Defense and they are barring people from military bases and are requiring masks. But the acts of an individual federal agency do not equate to nationwide acts of the federal government. And I would say that if the federal government at the executive level showed the same discipline and care as the cabinet secretaries did in protecting their agencies, we'd have a lot different outcome here. So I think the seriousness you're seeing comes at a level below the White House and probably below OMB. It's coming from the individual headquarters and the civil staff working with the civilian appointees to do that. So yeah, the DOD is taking this far more seriously than the White House. I think that's a fair thing to say, but that doesn't alleviate the seriousness you're seeing is not an alleviation of the abandonment of the sort of the duties of the president to have a plan to give guidance at every chance. And this isn't one way or another. At every chance he's had to make a choice or implement a policy, Trump hasn't said worse or better or not. He's just avoided the decision, so that I think part of it is a motivation is he doesn't want the blame. If it goes bad, he doesn't want the blame. So he's deferred it to the states. And that confusion, well, I'll show you. You know what? We're going to have some charts here that actually show it's not really the state openings and closings that have caused much of the economic harm. It's the people's loss of faith in being protected from COVID. So I think, you know, regardless of what's happening at the highest levels, people are not unaware of the risks of this. I mean, there's some fringe groups, obviously, and there's some debates up on masks, but one of the things that has come up in the past several times is this concept of this was something Kevin Lane, I don't know if you're on, Kevin, right now. I'm not calling you out because it was a good question, but did we overreact in shutting down the states when we closed them and therefore tanked our economy? And this is the underlying question. I don't think it's an invalid question at all. I'm not one of these folks who's like, you know, you can't talk about the economy when there's a pandemic. Remember, my point of view is that the economy is people and people are the economy. They're integrated. You can't separate them out and prioritize one over the other because they're essentially the same. But the question has come up both in the United States and in some countries like Sweden that is testing this induced herd immunity is, well, should we have a lesser response from a government standpoint, because that will help the economy? And I've got some good data now for the US to talk about that, and some just recently released one on Sweden to show kind of some of that, give some more context to that. And I think it makes it pretty clear that states opening and closing do not drive the economy. It's confidence in the COVID-19 response. So this is a chart I'll be using here. These lines, you'll see we've got some high frequency indicator, and you're going to see these lines and they go in this order, and I'll call out the dates because they're marked on the timelines. But the green one is the week of that ended March 14th. This is what I call the market reaction. This is the week, if you remember, that had the stock market drop by a third. President Trump had his White House national address on Wednesday night that didn't go over very well. The NBA canceled its game, Coachella canceled, all the concerts canceled, the travel ban was. All of these things happened simultaneously in that week after building up. And this was before most states closed. And what I'm going to show is that the economic high frequency indicators, a high frequency indicator is something that's reported every couple of days. So it's very sensitive. I think we'll see that a lot of the drop down in economic activity happened before state closing, because the next four lines track the percent of states closed. So the solid one is 10% of states closed. That's New York, California, Washington. 50% closed, 72% closed, and 86% closed. That number's a little weird because some states never closed. And then as you go along the timeline, they begin reopening. 10% states have reopened, 20% states have reopened, 100% of states have reopened. And now, as of July 7th, some are pausing or reversing the reopen. So what you'll see in these timelines here, and we'll just go through a couple here. Oops, that is there we go. First one we're going to look at is restaurants, right? This high frequency indicator, restaurant data, year-on-year change in diners from online phone walk-in reservations. All this information comes from calculated risk. And to clear the chart, you have a decline year-over-year change or decline. So at 100% down year-over-year, that means no business, right? And here's the timeline at the bottom. And these are the Texas, New York, Georgia, Florida, California, and the entire United States. And again, these lines are added now so that you can take a look at when did the actual economic decline happen in restaurants in this case. So here is that week I talked about, that hell week that ended March 14th. This first line is when 10% of the states, look at the decline from when the market began reaction to just New York, California, and Washington being closed. Now we can say, well, New York and California, if they're closing, that makes sense, they're dropping. But Texas, Florida, Georgia, the entire United States, everything is dropping like a rock. Only 10% of the states are closed. By 20% of the states being closed, restaurants are done, right? Before there's even a lockdown order in most states, people had decided not to engage in the economy and had sort of self-opted out. And you can see here that, yes, by 100 time, 86% of the states are closed. It's already been closed for a while. Likewise, as we begin reopening, you see the restaurant business pick up. So this is 10% open, 20% open. This is when 100% of the states were reopened in some form or another. And you see the restaurant business is picking up. But look what happens over here. You start to see this decline. This is as the realization that the outbreak is not being contained becomes aware. States haven't paused or reversed the reopenings. This is right now, this brown line, that indicates when the states began pausing or reversing the reopenings. Again, the market reacted before the state's official actions happen. And we'll go to here. This is gasoline consumption year over year. So this is a proxy of motor travel by car. You can see here the change in percent. Again, from the market going down, it dropped 40% by the time only 20% of the states were closed. So people are already opting off the roads while states are still open, businesses are still open. By the time actually all the states have opened, we're beginning to see a return of motor travel. And remember, this is the time when the Russian and Saudi Arabian oil war is going on, and gas is super cheap. Gas is down to $1.40, $1.50 in many places. And so you're starting to see this increase, and you have a large increase obviously around Memorial Day as the states reopen. And you're seeing this here now. It may be, as we see the July 4th weekend, you may see another bump here coming up, but it'll be interesting to see whether this peak here and this slight decline marks the start of a decline from the market before states pause and reverse openings. And this is transit. So not everyone drives cars. This is public transit, right? Obviously, very concerning if you're thinking about public transit and the COVID. Again, you see this large drop off across not just select areas that we're introducing it, but across the entire United States, really drop off even before states. What these show is that people are opting out of risking themselves if they can in the economy. And that's kind of the large concept here is of trying to say, well, were the state closings too severe or less severe? I'd say it was the confidence in the pandemic response. And you can see the confidence was very low. It dropped in all of those. And because of the technical difficulties in time, I'm not going to go through the rest of the charts. I'll try and figure that out. But if you go to calculated risk on the link, they have all these high frequency charts. There's about 6 of them. And what it shows is that the economy, once that confidence was lost, the economy stopped itself well before states' closures stopped the economy legally. The economy shut itself down. And what's going to be interesting is the economy has begun acting back up or open as these state reopenings, but is it going to shut it down self again over fear of the uncontrolled outbreaks? Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to follow the InfoMullet, visit us on Facebook or Twitter. And if you'd like notifications when we post new video content, click on the red subscribe button below the video. If you've ever wanted to become a mulleteer and support the InfoMullet, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate the support.